My dear friends, oh, how the world has changed. How swiftly the winds of life move across our plans, our comforts, our yesterdays. But let me ask you, has the wind come to destroy you, or has it come to carry you higher? Change is a divine invitation, not a disruption. We live in a world that teaches us to fear change, to resist it, to brace ourselves against its currents, as though it were some thief in the night, come to steal what we've built. But what if that's the great misunderstanding of our time? What if change is not the destroyer we imagine it to be? What if it is the very hand of purpose, gently nudging us, redirecting us towards something greater than we can see? Too often we measure our peace by predictability. We measure our success by how tightly we can hold on to what is familiar. We love the known, the safe, the expected. And yet all of life is marked by transformation. Every season of nature changes without fear or resistance. The caterpillar must cease to crawl before it flies. The seed must break before it blossoms. And we, who are made for so much more, somehow forget that our evolution requires movement. Change is not random, it is not careless. It does not wander into your life by mistake. Every shift, every sudden turn, every detour you never saw coming was known before you felt it. And it came with an invitation. Will you trust what you cannot yet understand? Will you follow even when it hurts to let go? You see, the disruption you feel is often not destruction. It's divine alignment. It's the closing of a chapter that no longer serves your growth. It's the release of something you thought you needed, so your hands can be free to carry what you were actually born for. There are doors that will never open until you walk away from the ones you've been staring at too long. There are callings that won't awaken until comfort is shaken. When the ground trembles beneath your plans, it's not always a sign of failure. Sometimes it's the sound of foundation being laid for something eternal. Sometimes God interrupts what you built because it was too small for your destiny. Sometimes what you're mourning is something heaven already deemed finished, and the change you've been resenting might just be the thing that saves your life. It's easy to love the light when everything is blooming, but true faith is found when the winds rise and you choose to trust the invisible. Change is heaven's whisper that you were not made to stay stagnant. You were made to move, to stretch, to rise. There is something sacred in the letting go, something holy in the release. Not every comfort is your calling. Not every success is your assignment. And not every ending is a tragedy. Sometimes, what feels like loss is actually liberation. Sometimes, what feels like the closing of a door is the turning of a page. You are not here to cling to a life that no longer fits you. You are here to respond to the divine rhythm that says grow, evolve, step forward. And that forward motion, that surrender to change, is not just bravery, it is obedience. It is alignment with the very reason you were born. Change is not a disruption, it is the invitation of destiny. And though it may come wrapped in uncertainty, it always carries the fingerprints of divine design. Your pain has purpose. Nothing is wasted. There are moments in life that leave us breathless, not because of beauty, but because of the sheer weight of sorrow. Disappointment, betrayal, loss, failure. These are not abstract ideas, they are lived experiences. They carve into the human soul with a sharpness that words can hardly contain. And yet, in the stillness after the storm, something ancient and eternal whispers, even this will serve you. We are quick to see purpose in success, in triumph, in the doors that open. We celebrate the answered prayers, the fulfilled dreams, the blessings that arrive wrapped in joy. But what of the silence? What of the unanswered cries, the seasons that seem barren, the doors that slammed shut just when you thought you were close? It is there, in those shadowed places, that purpose is often formed in its most powerful shape. Pain refines us. It reveals what comfort often hides. When everything is stripped away, when you find yourself standing in the ruins of what once was, that is when you meet the unshakable parts of yourself. That is when clarity begins to rise, not in the brightness of day, but in the midnight hour. The pain you've carried, the sorrow you've endured, the ache that you thought might break you, none of it is wasted. Every tear has watered the soil of your future. Every ache has deepened your capacity for compassion, for wisdom, for truth. There is something sacred about pain when you refuse to let it harden you. When you let it teach you instead of define you. When you allow it to break not your spirit, but your illusion. There are depths in you that joy cannot reach, that only pain can uncover. And once those depths are revealed, you become more than you were. You become rooted, grounded, aware. You begin to see not just with your eyes, but with your spirit. So many people walk through life trying to erase their pain, trying to pretend it never happened. But to deny your pain is to deny the very journey that shaped your strength. The fire you walked through did not consume you. It refined you. The heartbreak you survived did not destroy you. It uncovered parts of you that had been dormant, waiting to awaken. What you thought was a delay may have been divine protection. What you called rejection may have been redirection. And what felt like the end was often the beginning in disguise. You are not broken, you are becoming. You are not cursed, you are being carved. The pain that felt so random is often the tool in the hands of purpose. Every loss, every failure, every dark night has left behind something. Sometimes a lesson, sometimes a gift. Sometimes a strength that could not have been born any other way. It is tempting to want to rush past it, to cover it up with distraction or numbness. But if you will lean in, if you will be still long enough to listen, your pain will speak. It will not lie, it will not flatter, but it will tell you what matters. It will show you what you truly need and what you can live without. It will lead you to the truth, not just about the world, but about yourself. Because when the pain clears, when the smoke lifts, you are left with a deeper understanding. And from that understanding comes power. Not the power to avoid pain, but the power to walk through it with unwavering purpose. Let go of what was to receive what's next. There comes a time in every journey when holding on becomes heavier than letting go. We cling to what is familiar, not because it still fits us, but because it once gave us comfort. We hold tight to old dreams, outdated identities, expired relationships, and worn-out versions of ourselves, afraid that if we release them, we'll have nothing left. But the truth is, you cannot receive what is meant for you while your hands are full of what has already served its purpose. Letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom. It takes strength to unclench your fists when your heart still remembers the warmth of what was. It takes courage to walk away from what no longer speaks to your future. And yet, that courage is the gateway to everything new. Nothing grows without space. Nothing arrives until you're willing to make room. The next season of your life is waiting, not for you to work harder, not for you to chase faster, but for you to release what's no longer aligned. We often confuse loyalty with attachment. We stay loyal to old seasons, old narratives, old habits, not because they are life-giving, but because we fear the unknown. But true loyalty should be to your purpose, to your growth, to your becoming. You are not betraying your past by moving forward. You are honoring it by letting it be what it was. Part of your story, not the whole of it. Some of the hardest goodbyes are not to people, but to versions of ourselves. The version that needed to prove something. The version that carried the weight of everyone else's expectations. The version that believed smallness was safety. These parts of you helped you survive, but they are not meant to lead you into your next chapter. There is a becoming inside of you that can only be born through release. To let go is not to forget. It is not to devalue what was. It is to trust that there is more, that the same source that carried you through yesterday has already prepared the ground for tomorrow. Holding on to what is no longer meant for you will only delay what is destined for you. Closed fists cannot receive. Closed minds cannot dream. Closed hearts cannot love fully. You may be standing at the edge of a threshold, caught between nostalgia and destiny. One foot in what was, the other trembling at the edge of what could be. That tension is sacred. It means you are being called higher. You are being invited into a new dimension of living. But the door only opens when you are willing to stop knocking on the one that already closed. This is not about throwing away everything. It's about discerning what still carries life and what has become a weight. It's about honoring what taught you, while not idolizing what kept you comfortable. There is something new that wants to be born through you. New vision, new voice, new vitality, but it cannot grow in soil that is already overgrown with yesterday's roots. Sometimes the most spiritual act is simply saying, I release this. Not in bitterness, not in haste, but in reverence, in understanding that all things have a time, and when that time ends, grace lifts. You may have outgrown certain places, certain patterns, certain relationships, not because they were wrong, but because you are growing. You are not meant to stay where you were. You are not meant to shrink into old spaces just because they are familiar. The version of you that can hold what's next is stronger, deeper, wiser, and waiting to be revealed. Letting go isn't a loss. It is an opening, an act of surrender that signals to life itself that you are ready. Ready not just for more, but for what is less meant. You are built to thrive, not merely survive. There is something deep within the human spirit that refuses to be crushed. Something that rises again even when life presses down with unbearable weight. But too often, we forget this truth. We begin to settle, to shrink, to quiet our dreams under the heavy blanket of survival. We start to believe that getting by is enough, that staying afloat is success, that making it through the day is the best we can hope for. But you are not created just to endure. You were not placed here merely to make it from one moment to the next. There is a fire in you that was meant to burn bright, not flicker in the shadows. The design of your life is not accidental. You were not formed with resilience so you could remain stuck. You were given a mind that dreams, a heart that feels, a soul that stretches toward the light. Not to be numbed, not to be silenced, but to be ignited. Every part of you speaks of purpose. Every breath is a sign that there is more. Even in the midst of chaos, even in the valleys of disappointment, there is a whisper inside you that knows you were made for greater things. Survival is a season, not a lifestyle. There may be moments when all you can do is keep going, moments when the only victory is that you didn't give up. That is real, that matters. But don't let those seasons define your identity. Don't allow temporary circumstances to convince you of permanent limitation. Just because you've been in survival mode doesn't mean you belong there. You were meant to live from a place of holiness, not from constant exhaustion. You were built with vision, with passion, with the capacity to create, to love, to overcome. Not just to function, but to flourish. Thriving isn't about having everything go right. It's not about perfection or ease. It's about alignment. It's about rising into who you truly are, regardless of what's happening around you. It's about finding strength you didn't know you had, faith that moves when nothing else does, joy that refuses to die even in dry places. When you thrive, you are not ignoring reality. You are transforming it. You are choosing to live from the inside out, rather than being shaped by the pressures of circumstance. So many people wear weariness like armor. They believe that struggle is all there is. But the struggle is the soil from which strength grows. You do not thrive because life is easy. You thrive because you decide to grow even when it's hard. You choose to believe in possibility even when evidence is scarce. You say yes to life when everything in you wants to say no. That is thriving. That is power. That is who you are. The system around you may reward survival. It may teach you to hustle, to grind, to sacrifice rest for progress. But deep down, your soul craves more than just forward motion. It craves meaning. It craves beauty, connection, expansion. Thriving is about being alive in every sense, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's about being present enough to notice the wonder in ordinary things. It's about building something lasting from the lessons pain has taught you. You were built for this. To rise above fear, to outlast the night, to carry vision through difficulty and emerge stronger. You don't need to become someone else to thrive. You need to return to who you really are, to what you carry deep within, not what the world says you should be, not what your past tried to make you believe, but the real you, the one who was created with intentionality, with glory woven into every thread of your being. That part of you knows how to rise. That part of you knows how to thrive. The moment to rise is not later, it's now. We spend so much of our lives waiting for the perfect time, the right sign, the green light that tells us everything is aligned. We wait for the fear to disappear, for the confidence to appear, for conditions to become ideal. But life does not unfold according to our imagined timelines. Destiny does not consult our calendars. There is a truth that echoes through time, a truth that calls us to attention in every season. The moment to rise is not someday. It is this moment right now, exactly as you are, exactly where you are. There is a myth that we must be more prepared before we move, that we must be more healed, more educated, more polished, more certain. But growth rarely begins at the mountaintop. It begins in the middle of the mess, in the tension of becoming, in the space where nothing feels clear but something inside still says go. You do need to be perfect to begin. You not need to have all the answers to take the next step. Clarity is often born in motion. Strength is often found through struggle. And power awakens the moment you choose to respond rather than delay. The longer you wait for the perfect moment, the more you teach yourself that you are not ready. You reinforce the belief that your value is tied to your preparation. But readiness is not a destination. It is a decision, a holy decision to step out, even if your knees are shaking. A decision to trust the voice within more than the noise around you. A decision to believe that if the call is here, then grace has already gone before you. So many dreams die in the waiting room of hesitation. So many lives shrink not because they lacked opportunity, but because they waited for an invitation that had already been delivered in their spirit. You don't need a stage to rise. You don't need applause or permission. The rising begins in secret places, in the quiet corners of your courage, when you decide that the time for playing small is over. Now doesn't mean rushed. Now doesn't mean reckless. It means intentional. It means present. It means no longer deferring your life to a future version of yourself that may never come if you keep delaying your becoming. The truth is, the future is shaped by what you choose today. The habits you form, the boundaries you draw, the steps you take or refuse to take, each one is a brushstroke on the canvas of your becoming. And there is nothing more tragic than a life unlived, not because of lack but because of delay. You may feel afraid. You may feel underqualified, under-resourced, misunderstood. That's okay. Rising doesn't require absence of fear. It requires presence of faith. Faith that you were created on purpose. Faith that what is stirring inside you is not foolishness but fire. Faith that the same power that got you this far will carry you the rest of the way. Waiting for perfect timing is often just fear in disguise. And fear cannot lead. Only truth can. The moment to begin again is now. The moment to speak up is now. The moment to forgive, to build, to trust, to stretch, to dream again is now. Not once you feel ready. Not once everything lines up. But now. In this breath, in this sacred space of choosing to live boldly in spite of uncertainty. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are right on time. And this moment, the one you are in right now, holds more possibility than you know. Fear is a liar. Faith is your fuel. Fear has a voice and it's loud. It whispers in the silence and shouts in the storm. It tells you what you can't do, who you'll never be, what's too risky, too uncertain, too impossible. It dresses itself as caution, disguises itself as wisdom, but at its core, fear is a thief. It steals potential before it ever has the chance to grow. It cages dreams before they can fly. And yet so many live by its voice, trusting its lies more than they trust their own purpose. Fear feeds on your imagination. It paints worst-case scenarios with vivid colors. It convinces you that every step forward is a setup for failure. It uses your past as evidence and your insecurities as ammunition. But fear doesn't see your future. It doesn't know the strength you carry or the grace waiting for you just beyond the edge of your comfort zone. It is limited. It is reactive. It speaks only to protect, never to propel. But you were not created to be kept safe by fear. You were created to walk by faith. Faith does not silence every question. It does not erase every doubt. What it does is give you a reason to move anyway. Faith is not blind optimism. It is courageous trust. It's the choice to believe that there is something greater ahead than what lies behind. Faith fuels vision. It ignites boldness. It awakens the part of you that knows even when everything else is uncertain. While fear paralyzes, faith propels. Fear says, what if you fall? Faith responds, what if you fly? You don't need to feel fearless to walk in faith. You simply need to decide which voice you will obey. Every day, you stand at the intersection of fear and faith. And what you choose in those quiet, unseen moments defines more than just your direction. It defines your identity. Will you be the one who shrinks, who hides, who delays? Or will you be the one who steps out, even when the ground feels unsteady? Fear will always offer you a way out, but it's never the way forward. It will give you excuses, delays, detours, but never destiny. Because destiny is accessed through faith, through movement, through obedience to that still, small voice that says, go. Even when you're shaking, even when you don't have all the details, even when the outcome is unclear, especially then. The most powerful shifts in your life will never come from a place of comfort. They will come when you decide to stop waiting for fear to leave and start acting from faith instead. Fear may always be present, but it does not have to be in control. It may speak, but it doesn't get the final word. You were not born to be ruled by fear. You were born to walk in authority, in boldness, in vision. Faith doesn't need perfect circumstances. It needs a willing heart. It needs a yes. That's all. Not a 10-year plan. Not a flawless record. Just a yes. A yes to keep showing up. A yes to believe again. A yes to move when fear says sit down. That kind of faith changes atmospheres. It breaks cycles. It calls things that are not as though they were. It looks fear in the face and says, you've had your time, but I'm not led by you anymore. You don't need more certainty. You need more courage. The kind that rises even in the dark. The kind that walks even when the way isn't clear. The kind that trusts that every step taken in faith is not wasted, no matter how small. Faith is not the absence of fear, it is the refusal to be ruled by it. It is the fuel that takes you where fear said you could never go. Your difference is your advantage, not your disadvantage. In a world obsessed with sameness, it is easy to believe the lie that what makes you different is what disqualifies you. From an early age, we are taught to blend in, to smooth out the rough edges, to follow the patterns that have already been laid down by others. The loudest voices push you to conform, to fit the mold, to silence your unique expression, to trade your authenticity for approval. But what if the very thing you've been trying to hide, suppress, or fix is the very thing that was meant to set you apart? Your difference is not a flaw. It is a feature. It is not your weakness. It is your greatest advantage when embraced with truth and clarity. The way your mind works, the way your heart feels, the way your soul sees the world. It was all given to you with intention. There is nothing accidental about your design. The nuances of your personality, the contrast of your experiences, the rhythm of your thoughts, they were woven into you for a purpose. The world doesn't need another imitation. It needs the sound of your voice, the shape of your ideas, the depth of your insight. What makes you different is what makes you valuable. So many people spend their lives trying to become someone else, thinking that's the path to success. They mimic, they copy, they contort themselves to gain acceptance. But no one ever finds peace by abandoning who they really are. You were never meant to succeed by becoming a replica of someone else's blueprint. You thrive when you stand fully in your own design. There is power in owning your difference. There is strength in choosing to show up as your whole self in a world that rewards pretense. Your story is unlike anyone else's for a reason. The pain you've walked through, the culture you were born into, the struggles you've faced. These are not things to be ashamed of. They are what give your voice authority. They are what give your message depth. There are people who can only be reached by someone who carries what you carry. There are problems that can only be solved by someone who thinks the way you think. You don't need to apologize for your uniqueness. You need to realize it is your superpower. In a crowd of echoes, your original voice is the gift. And yes, being different will sometimes feel like being alone. It will mean standing when others sit. It will mean speaking when others are silent. It will mean taking paths no one else understands. But difference has always been the birthplace of innovation, transformation, revolution. The ones who make the greatest impact are never the ones who played it safe. They are the ones who refuse to bury their identity to please the masses. There will be moments when your difference makes others uncomfortable. Not because there is something wrong with you, but because your boldness exposes their conformity. That's not your burden to carry. Your responsibility is not to shrink to make others feel safe. Your responsibility is to shine. Not with arrogance, but with truth. Not to prove anything, but to be everything you were made to be. Stop waiting for the world to validate what has already been confirmed in your soul. Stop comparing your path to others who were never meant to walk where you're called to go. Your gifts are different. Your timing is different. Your process is different. That is not a liability. It is your lane. Stay in it, cultivate it, trust it. Your difference is your distinction. It is the mark that separates you from the noise, and once you learn to value it, so will everyone else. What you carry is bigger than what you face. There are moments in life when what stands against you looks enormous. Circumstances tower over your head like giants. Resistance presses in from all sides, and everything within you wants to retreat. The pressure is real, the opposition is loud. And yet, in the middle of that battle, you must remember this unshakable truth. What is within you is greater than what is around you. The weight of your calling outweighs the weight of your challenges. The power you carry inside is not small, not temporary, not fragile. It is enduring, it is divine, and it is more than enough to meet whatever confronts you. The mistake many make is measuring their strength by what's visible. They assess their worth by what's in their bank account, their influence by how many followers they have, their success by how the world responds to them. But what you carry cannot be measured by external validation. It is not defined by applause, nor diminished by criticism. What you carry was placed in you by design before the world ever had a say. Your purpose was formed in eternity, not in public opinion. You are not empty-handed. You are not powerless. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a carrier of something greater. That dream in your spirit, that fire that won't go out no matter how many times you've been disappointed. It's not there by accident. The gifts you've been given, the insights that come naturally to you, the passions that wake you up at night, these are clues to what you've been entrusted with. You may not have all the resources yet. You may not have a perfect plan. But you have what matters most. You have a calling, and with it, the strength to carry it forward. Opposition is often the greatest indicator that you're carrying something powerful. Darkness doesn't waste time chasing what doesn't pose a threat. Resistance rises when movement begins. But you cannot allow adversity to cause you to shrink. You cannot let fear cause you to forget what's inside you. Giants don't fall because you're strong enough. They fall because you show up with what you've been given and trust that it's enough. The stone in David's hand didn't look like much, but it carried purpose. And that made it unstoppable. Your battles are not just about you. They're about what you carry. They're about the lives that will be impacted when you don't quit. They're about the freedom that flows through your obedience. They're about the legacy that's being written every time you choose to stand firm. When you realize this, you stop measuring your fight by the size of the problem and start measuring it by the size of the promise. The obstacle may be massive, but the purpose is greater. The pain may be sharp, but the calling is deeper. The delay may be frustrating, but what you carry is worth the wait. You carry strength that adversity cannot steal. You carry peace that chaos cannot crush. You carry creativity, insight, authority, and favor that no enemy can erase. It may feel hidden. It may feel dormant. But it's there, it's in your words, in your steps, in the quiet confidence that keeps you going even when you feel unseen. What you carry is not dependent on how you feel. It is constant, it is active, and it will make a way when no way is visible. This is not the time to second-guess your significance. This is not the moment to downplay your voice, to minimize your mission, to bow to intimidation. You are carrying something that is destined to shift atmospheres. You are carrying wisdom forged in fire, resilience built through storms, vision shaped by the refining of time. What you carry has weight, it has influence, it has impact, and no circumstance can change that truth. We have walked through the valleys of fear, scaled the peaks of faith, uncovered the power of difference, and declared the strength that lies within. Each keynote, each word has not simply been information, it has been an awakening. You are not here to merely survive change, you are here to thrive through it. The winds of uncertainty were never meant to break you, they were meant to lift you. The disruption you face is not your destruction, it is your invitation, your permission, your moment. You were born for this time, this season, this very chapter. Not to be hidden, not to be silenced, but to rise, to shift atmospheres by simply being who you were created to be. The world does not need a quieter, smaller, safer version of you. It needs the fullness of you, unapologetic, bold, faithful and fierce. You carry answers, you carry solutions, you carry light. So take the vision and let it burn brighter. Take the difference and wear it like a crown. Take the fear and turn it into fuel. Because you're not just here to make it through. You're here to lead, to shape, to build, to transform. This is your time. This is your edge. This is your advantage. Now thrive forward.